Hey everyone, it's Terry here on another episode of Gamers Acquire. The time has finally come to talk about Cyberpunk.
Hello there, Night City!
It's been almost 3 years since the controversial release of Cyberpunk 2077. And by controversial, I mean an absolute dumpster fire. Yeah, half-naked pedestrians T-posing while driving, dead enemies clipping through the ground while doing the Charleston, and even a glitch that made cars fall from the sky. Cyberpunk had enough bugs to make Bethesda developers blush. The game's launch on the PS4 and Xbox consoles was so bad that many feared even Keanu Reeves and all his John-Wick badassery wouldn't be enough to save it.
I'm sorry.
Since that time, CD Projekt Red has steadily squashed most of these nasty bugs and has released enough updates to eat up every tiny bit of RAM left on your 10-year-old desktop. 3 years of updates and an awesome anime show later, well, they released an update 2.0 and the first expansion to the game. That expansion is Phantom Liberty. Not only does Phantom Liberty come with new stories, weapons, locations, and characters, you name it, but it adds to its talented cast, the big guy himself, Idris Elba. Now, despite Idris Elba's backing, players were still cautious with their expectations ahead of expansion's release. This, of course, was influenced largely by how absolute abysmal the original game was when it first came out. However, those fears were put to bed as positive reviews came pouring in from some of the most respectable gaming staples in all of cyberspace. With the 9 out of 10 from IGN and a 5 out of 5 from PC World, it's easy to see that Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty is a much different game from its predecessor. That said, some are still unconvinced that this latest expansion is worth the $30 price tag. I've played and completed both the campaigns of the base game and the Phantom Liberty expansion, and I'm super excited to share my thoughts with you. So, in today's review, I'm going to be talking about absolutely everything relating to Cyberpunk 2077, including the base game and the DLC expansion. So, you're all caught up. And whether you've played the main story or just a complete novice to the game, this review's for you. That's right, I've got your back, chooms. So sit back, relax, and let's dive straight into Night City. Kicking things off with the story and narrative. Cyberpunk puts you in the boots of V, an ultra customizable, gun-toting mercenary who plies his trade in the gritty, futuristic metropolis of Night City. He and his team, made up of best friend Jackie Wells and a netrunner named T-Bug, are contracted by notorious fixer Dexter Deshawn to steal a relic or biochip from the most powerful mega conglomerate in the world, the Arasaki Corporation. Things go south when V and Jackie inadvertently witness the assassination of the corporation head, Saburo Arasaka, by his own son, Yorinobu. While trying to escape, Jackie and T-Bug die while V gets a bullet to the head from Dexter Deshawn. V, however, survives thanks to the biochip he inserted in his head. However, it turns out that biochip is now rewriting his consciousness with that of rock legend and terrorist Johnny Silverhand, played incredibly by Keanu Reeves. V now has to figure out a way to remove the chip before Keanu's consciousness completely overwrites his and kills him. Now, the game has 3 achievable endings depending on your choices, but nearly all of them are bleak or depressing in some way. At the end of the main quest, you have to choose between dying, having your mind locked away, or letting Keanu take over your body. These choices seem pretty darn awful, except maybe for the one where Keanu gets to take over your body. I mean, who wouldn't want to be Keanu Reeves, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, most gamers were really hoping for at least one ending where the relic is removed, but V and maybe even Johnny still get to live. This is possibly one of the concerns that CD Projekt Red set out to fix with Phantom Liberty. So let's talk a little bit about Phantom Liberty. Phantom Liberty takes place at some point before the final mission of the main story. After the shuttle of the new United States president crashes in a sectioned off area of Night City called Dogtown, V is conscripted by the president's aide, Song Songbird to save the president in return for safely removing the relic of V's brain. In order to complete the objective and also to save Songbird, V teams up with a Noosa sleeper agent in Dogtown, Solomon Reed, who is played by Idris Elba, both in voice and appearance. Reed had once worked with Songbird, but things ended sorely when Noosa ordered Songbird to betray Reed to Arasaka, and he narrowly escaped with his life. Now, there's a lot more twists and turns and lies involved in the story, but I don't want to spoil it for you. Just keep in mind that Phantom Liberty has 3 endings, just like the base game. One of the endings involves V surviving, but with a really depressing catch, which I'll tell you in just a bit. Unsurprisingly, both the base game and Phantom Liberty have solid and well-crafted stories, exceptionally brought to life by some of the best voice actors you've probably never heard of. CD Projekt Red are master storytellers, and we've seen this in The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, as well as its Blood and Wine expansion. So it shouldn't come at much of a surprise that Cyberpunk toes the same line. Now, I was particularly impressed by the fact that game offers you different endings to choose from. For lots of RPGs, their idea of a separate ending simply boils down to playing a slightly different low-budget, pre-rendered cutscene at the end of the main story. But Cyberpunk goes above and beyond to create alternate endings with very divergent mission paths and outcomes. It gives your decisions a sense of importance. Knowing that how polite you were to Johnny Silverhand may end up determining whether you live or whether your mind is reduced to an iOS application. Cyberpunk definitely knows how to tell an incredible story. I just wish the stories didn't have endings that give you an existential crisis. What is it with Cyberpunk and having their protagonist die at the end? I mean, the choices at the end of the base game seem to range from dying immediately or dying slowly. Even the 2022 anime Cyberpunk Edgerunners kills off its main character in the end. By the way, Cyberpunk Edgerunners is so amazing, it has no right to be as good as it was. Check it out if you haven't already. While Phantom Liberty offers you a choice to save your character, they nerf him so badly you're not even sure if you want to save him anymore. That's right, in the good ending of Phantom Liberty, the relic is removed and V gets to survive, but all his friends and love interests have moved on. Judy's freaking married, Carrie gives you the cold shoulder, and the most heartbreaking part is that Pan Am won't even pick up your call anymore. I mean, what's the point of living if you can't romance Pan Am anymore? Might as well go slap Adam Smasher's mom or something to get it over with. The worst part in that particular ending of Phantom Liberty, you are no longer able to use advanced combat, cyberware. In other words, you go from being a walking tank that fought Arasaka cyborg ninja, death squads, to becoming a piece of toast that any thug in Night City can beat up. That's just awful. That said, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty still has some of the best RPG quests ever. Getting to partner with Idris Elba and even Keanu at the same time really hits different. I enjoyed it, and something tells me you will too. Let's talk about the gameplay. I'm sure you've already got the gist of the game by now. You play as V, but also as Johnny Silverhand in certain segments. The open world metropolis of Night City is sprawling with snazzy locations to explore, including the corporate city center, Watson, the luxurious Westbrook, the suburban Haywood, the gang-infested Pacifica, and industrial Santo Domingo. V can also explore the Badlands, which are the regions outside of Night City. Of course, the arrival of Phantom Liberty brings in with it the new location of Dogtown, an area so bad they walled it off from the rest of the city. Similar to games like GTA 5, you can choose to go on missions or just drive around and be a menace to society. Just keep an eye out if it gets to 5 stars, then the police might fly down and turn you into a statistic. Each main story mission or side quest you complete earns you attribute points, skill points, street cred, armor, guns, you name it. You can then use these points to upgrade your character and unlock some cool cyberware. Cyberpunk also supports 3 main playstyles, which you can dive into with your super customizable main character. And I'm not kidding about the customizable part. CD Projekt Red lets you tinker with everything regarding your character, right down to his or her genitals. Whether or not having that option is super important for your play style is up to you, but I digress. Speaking of playstyles, Cyberpunk allows you to have a variety of them. You can play as a netrunner and become a hacking god, or you can play as a technician and become one with high-tech weaponry and use all sorts of cool cyberwares. A good old-fashioned gun-toting, chain-smoking mercenary, whatever you want to do. You have the choice to start the game also with either of 3 life paths. paths, which mostly affect where you begin the game and some dialogue choices you encounter during your playthrough. Attributes and character perks are another cool part of the game. There are 5 attributes in the game, and they include body, intelligence, reflexes, technical, and cool. Each attribute gives you a slight advantage in a specific area of the game. For example, investing in intelligence gives you faster and more powerful quick hacks. Over time, you can even use a quick hack that forces bad guys to detonate a grenade right next to their buddies. It's pretty cool. However, if you get tired of all the hacking and techie stuff, you can double down on the body attribute and become a walking tank, which is basically what I did, because I like going into every situation guns blazing. This attribute is especially handy for fist fights, which you will get into during your playthrough. Just make sure you bring the gorilla arm cyberware along so you can pound your opponent to paste. Other attributes like reflexes affect your ability, maneuverability, and ability to use weapons like katanas, matini blades, and assault rifles, while cool enhances your stealth and cold blood perks. The technical affects your proficiency with technical weapons and high-end cyberwares. If you're looking to tear things up with some legendary cyberware, then you probably need to invest in your technical attribute. You've not played Cyberpunk until you've used the Pedestrian cyberware to slice your enemy AI to gibbets in a fraction of a second. Phantom Liberty has brought with it a revamped skill tree. It makes much needed changes to its appearance and system. In my opinion, the skill tree is much easier to understand now, which is always good. It also spots some new set of perks from the 2.0 update, including an addition to the skill tree called Relic. Relic skills are unlocked for you by the Songbird early in your Phantom Liberty playthrough. Relic skills have some pretty gnarly perks as well. Some of the must-have Relic skills include the vulnerability skill, which maps out the vulnerable areas in an enemy target, giving you a good chance of getting a critical hit. Let's just pretend CD Projekt Red didn't borrow that from the Fallout series. Other cool Relic skills include Limit Breaker, Jailbreak, and so on. Phantom Liberty and the 2.0 update also bring with it a bevy of changes and additions, including improved police AI, vehicular combat, a more dynamic night city, and a boatload of new weapons. Speaking of weapons, let's talk about some combat. Cyberpunk 2077 offers a wide range of combat options, including melee, ranged weapons, and quick hack attacks. Melee involves close combat weapons like katanas, baseball hats, and so on, but you'll quickly dump all of those in the garbage when you discover some of the military-grade cyberware that game's many Ripper dogs have to offer. These include the monowire, gorilla arms, and everybody's favorite, the mantis blades. The ranged weapons include the standard assault rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles, and other guns in the game. Trust me, there are a ton of them that can all be customized and modified to your pleasing. There are 3 main types of ranged weapons in the game, which include the standard power weapons, tech weapons, which penetrate walls and enemies, and smart weapons, which are humming bullets. Weapons and attacks in the game also deal 4 types of damages, which include physical, therma, EMP, and chemical. Wrap all of these up with a bucket load of throwables like frag, laser, and incendiary grenades. And then you have enough weapons and armor to take down a third world government. This is good news since the game throws an insane number of enemies at you, from low-level bottom feeders like Maelstrom and Tiger Claw to literal death incarnates like Max Tack and Arasaka Juggernauts. You're going to have a lot of bad guys to grapple with during your campaign. And don't even get me started on the boss fights. In certain levels of the game, you go toe-to-toe with bad guys so maxed out they are a few implants short of going cyber psycho. The most intimidating of these bosses, of course, is Arasaka's very own Atom Smasher. Considering the threat level of these bad guys and bosses, the game also gives you an option of using a stealthier approach. These include the use of stealth takedowns, silencer attachments, and optic cyberwares that render your attack non-lethal. If stealth is your bread and butter, then you're going to love Phantom Liberty. The Phantom Liberty expansion is essentially a spy thriller story, so it gives you a lot of room to flex your stealth muscles. An accurate way to describe Phantom Liberty would be Mission Impossible, but set in the world of Blade Runner. Cyberware like the optical camo know really makes you a nightmare for the enemy AI by endowing you with temporary invisibility during combat. Pair it with an iconic power pistol like Her Majesty, which gives perfect accuracy and a guaranteed critical headshot while optical camo is active. Then you pretty much become unstoppable. Another facet of the game revamped by Phantom Liberty is vehicular combat. It was an area that was touched on slightly at the start of the base game, but was seemingly abandoned afterward. Now, you can shoot at enemies while driving or riding a bike. You can even mount guns on your vehicle of choice. Mix that with a wide range of new vehicle perks and abilities that the new updates introduce, then you are left with an awesome demolition derby. All right, now graphics and performance. It's no secret that Cyberpunk has one of the best graphics of any game out there. The base game was already visually intense, but when you juxtapose that with the graphic updates that CD Projekt Red has been steadily introducing, then you have a game that's heart-stoppingly beautiful. Phantom Liberty has also added path tracing capabilities to the game's visual arsenal. Mashing up full ray and path tracing options on your playthrough is definitely a sure way to set your PC on fire. Most of the performance issues and bug problems the game had at its launch back in 2020 have also been ironed out. It now runs on a stable 50 to 60 frames per second on PS5 and Xbox. With all these in mind, I think it's safe to say that Cyberpunk 2077 is not just one of the best looking games out there right now, but also one of the best playing ones too. Next is replayability. As an RPG, Cyberpunk has a good level of replayability. We are talking about a game where choices in side quests, dialogues, and playstyle can determine who lives and who dies, and which of the game's endings you get. You also get new romance choices based on whether you're playing as female or male. Add that to different playstyle possibilities and builds you can experiment with on multiple runs, and then you get an RPG that gamers will definitely not be letting go of in a hurry. That said, I do believe the game would have benefited from the addition of multiplayer or co-op capabilities. According to a former senior Quest designer at the studio, they had plans to implement that feature, but it was pulled because of the abysmal launch of the base game. The lack of multiplayer capabilities wasn't a deal breaker for me, however. There was just so much to do and so many abilities to upgrade that I hardly even noticed. Ultimately, Cyberpunk 2077 is a great single player RPG experience that I don't mind coming back to anytime. All right, next is spirit of the game. After the massive success CD Projekt Red had with the Witcher series, especially with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, fans rightly expected them to take on even more ambitious projects, and that project was Cyberpunk 2077. From all the trailers and gameplay footage that was released leading up to launch, it was going to be a game to end all games. Gamers everywhere hoped that CD Projekt Red was going to be the studio that would make open world games you could trust, just like Rockstar. Some even considered them a better choice to Bethesda since their titles had improved facial animations and significantly fewer bugs. However, all those hopes were dashed when Cyberpunk launched in 2020 with enough bugs, glitches, and performance issues to melt even the sturdiest CPUs. It was clear that under Cyberpunk's bug-infested husk lay a great game begging to be experienced, but they rushed it out the door before it was ready. It was so bad that IGN gave its PlayStation 4 and Xbox release a 4 out of 10. Fans were heartbroken and felt betrayed by the studio. However, the developers didn't give up on the game. Slowly, resiliently, they began their redemption arc. Over the years, they've patched up most of the glitches and issues. More so, they've even introduced new content that made the game more fun and exciting. Some fans were quick to forgive CD Projekt Red and returned to continue the game immediately, while others still refused Night City's clarion call. The release of the Phantom Liberty expansion seems to be the culmination of that redemption arc. CD Projekt Red went so far as to bring Idris Elba on board just so they could get back to the fans' good graces. The game looks and plays so good. It's easy to see that this was the exact game that we should have gotten in 2020. On October 5th of this year, GameRant published that within its first week of launch, Phantom Liberty sold over 3 million copies. 2 million million of them were recorded on PC, followed by 600,000 on PS5 and another 400,000 on Xbox Series X. The studio mentioned that Cyberpunk 2077 overall has sold more than 25 million copies to date, with CD Projekt Red itself crossing 100 million copies for all of its title releases, including The Witcher trilogy. Cyberpunk 2077 has everything I've ever wanted to see in an RPG title: incredible storyline, nail-biting gameplay, bombastic action, and stunning visuals. The Phantom Liberty expansion only adds much welcome sauce to an open-world buffet that already looks tantalizingly good. And though the game may have stumbled at first, the grit and tenacity with which it has picked itself back up need to be admired and studied. With all this in mind, I have no reservations about giving this game 5 stars. It's probably the best game out there right now, including over Starfield. Let's just hope the studio can keep the momentum going. So what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree with my review? Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to get regular updates on new videos. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. We'll see you in the next one.